As we'll be discussing, the identifying of the object to be negated, that is to say, the way, identifying how it appears to you to exist. And there's got to be absolute clarity about that, and this is why this won't happen if we don't understand what Buddha's saying. We can't just think it's self-existent and one day it'll just come. All this is view. Buddha is a very detailed view of how things are. Unless you're totally programmed with this thinking from past life, it won't arise in your mind until you read it. The default view that we have now is the view of samsara. So we've got to learn the words first, listen to Buddha's teachings, think about the meaning, and then sit in your mind and start to investigate. It won't come otherwise. So let's just, having got some sense of the way the I appears, a self-existent I, that we think is existing on top of everything else, above everything else, over everything else, but isn't everything else. The owner idea, the landlord idea, which is what's expressed by our words and all this. Got some kind of clarity about that from much looking in day-to-day life, in meditation and the rest. Then we can go to the second step, which is to establish the parameters of our search. Because remember, we're going to search for it. Buddha says, sorry, mate, there isn't one, but don't just believe me, you've got to check. So the first thing is, he says, point it out. If you think it exists, you better find it as a distinct thing. You have to find it. Then it's not a question. And then the next step is, having established what you think the I is, the way it appears to you, you can now proceed to look for it. Which sort of sounds funny to us, but this is the point. Again, remember, if there is a part of you called I that isn't the brain, isn't the nose, isn't the eye, isn't the pee-pee, isn't the anger, isn't the jealousy, then you have to point it out. Conventionally. Keep hearing that point. So the first step is to establish what you think it is, which you're going to proceed to negate. The second point is you've got to establish the parameters of your search. Because you've got to search for it. And if you can't search for something, you don't know what it is. So the thief one, this is where the thief analogy comes in. You lived all your life in that apartment block. And you utterly believe, absolutely, totally assume all those years, your life, there's a thief out there. In fact, we live our life like that. We walk down the street assuming there are 47 rapists coming out of the corner. There are thieves everywhere. No wonder we live in, and this is the point, no wonder we live in fear. So, you lived in your apartment block all your life. And you absolutely have believed all your life that there's a thief. So you lock your doors, you're paranoid, you hear noises, it's the thief. Your things are missing, it's the thief. It must be the thief. Everywhere you go, you just assume there's a thief. But you have never, ever, ever seen the thief. But you just assume there is one. There's a really good analogy about how delusions work. They believe in things that don't exist. And because we believe we're true, we have all the fear and panic and drama. And all the emotions and the jealousy and the fear and the worry and the this and the accusations and the attachment and the anger and all that all come on the basis of the belief in a thing that doesn't exist. So we're using it, obviously the thief is the self-existent I, it's just the analogy. So the belief in your thief, and then someone comes along who knows the building well and knows the apartment, has searched and looked and has realised there's no thief, says, don't be ridiculous, Robina, there's no thief in this apartment block. You don't believe them. Or you could say, oh really, isn't there? Well, if you could get it directly, you'd go, oh, I can't believe there's no thief, and you'd have a realisation of non-thief, and you'd be happy now. No more fear. Keep your door open, relax. But it doesn't happen that long. Why? It doesn't happen like that because why? Because you believe in the thief for so long. You believe it's true. You see thieves around every corner. It's a great analogy. So, you've got to establish the parameters of it because you've made a decision. You're going to search for this thief. You're going to do one final thing. You're going to search for the thief. But first, you've never seen him, right? But first, you've got to get some sense of what you think he looks like. Because you're going to accuse everybody. Oh, there's the thief. And there's the thief. No, that's the thief. No, that's the thief. How do you know? How do you know? Unless you know how to identify the thief. Then being certain about what you think the thief is, you've got to have certainty, the object to be negated. You can then establish the parameters of your search. Well, clearly you're worried about the thief in your apartment block, not down the road. You're worried about the inherent I on this aggregates, not Mary's aggregates. So you establish the parameters of your search. Well, this is where it's a little bit different from the exact way they talk here, but the idea is that, it has to be somewhere, doesn't it? If there is a thief in your apartment block, which is the basis of all your fears and worry and drama, There has to be somewhere within the parameters of your apartment block. So that's your parameters of your search. Here, here the actual way they talk about, you establish the parameters of your search here as far as finding the inherent I. You establish the second point. You have to establish the parameters. The parameters of the search are either, if there is an inherent I, it's either oneness with, utterly oneness with the aggregates, inseparable, which is a vague feeling we have of I. Well, it's sort of all of me, we'll say. We'll say like that. But we've got to be precise. It'll either be oneness with all the rest of you, inseparable, or it'll be separate, or it'll be separate. So you have to go through the logical deductions of the absurdity of these two beliefs until eventually you're convinced of the truth of the absence of the inherent I. So it really does, you've got to squeeze your brain. You've got to know the thoughts you think. You've got to have concentration. You've got to have subdued your mind. You have to have purified your mind. You have to have practiced morality. You have to have studied the teachings. You can't just do this, hopefully. Oh, well, let's look for the I, you know. What are you looking for? I don't know, it's the I. What's it look like? I don't know. Don't be ridiculous. It's just plain stupid. So this type of approach demands a lot of study. You know? Well, they all do. So the thief one, you've established your parameters, your apartment block. Well, it's not complicated to search, even if it's 100 floors. You lock all the doors and all the windows and all the cracks and all the cellars. You lock it, don't you? And then you search. And don't underestimate this. You've got to, you know, you've got to search to the point where the only option is you've got to have absolute certainty. And there are two options only of what you will find. Only two. But you've got to be sure. That means you've got to search under every single crack and cranny, you know, in the toilet, under there, under the pipes, down the plumbing, in the cellar, on there, behind the wall, you know, under this, in there, until you absolutely know with utter definitive confidence, certainty, that you've searched everywhere. And there's two options of what you'll find. You will either find the thief, in which case you chuck him out and lock the door, naked and relax, or you find, guess what, the emptiness of the thief. With absolute certainty. You find there's no thief. You find, you see the absence of the thief. Is it not? But, you know, we're lazy. We just kind of assume things. You know, even when you go looking for things. Oh, I found your keys. No, I can't find them anywhere. Where have you really? Oh, I've looked everywhere. But it's nonsense. We just give a cursory look and then they're staring at us on the table, in the drawer. We didn't look properly. We're not certain. We act like with certainty. You know how people tell you how to get somewhere? Okay, with Google now it's different. You have your blue dot. I follow my blue dot. You know, it's kind of, you can trust it. Except when you can't trust it, like a wretched iPad, the Mac. The Mac? Oh, God, it's a disaster. I still can't get the Google one. I don't know why. Anyway, you know, we are so vague. It's the way the lack of clarity with our words. You go there, you go there. Oh, I saw her. I do this. She did that. You know, it's down there somewhere. You're sure? Yeah, I'm really sure. It's left. You go left. You're really sure? You go left. Yeah, you go left. We're not sure. We say it like we're sure. And then we know what, we get confused. And we blame everybody else for giving us a clue. We're not sure. We haven't got our facts clear. This demands such clarity of mind, such precision, such certainty, such logic. And this is what counteracts delusion. When we realise that delusion is a big, fat, lousy, rotten, pathetic self-piteous lies that bolster all the nonsense stories, then they have to be smashed in the face with clarity and logic. Do not think logic doesn't play a role. It's fundamental, because logic is truth. And virtues are truthful. Wisdom is truthful. You have to annihilate all the garbage. And that's painful, because we have layers and layers and layers of these emotional, you know, packagings we carry around with us. It's hard to smash them all. That's why when he leaves me, I haven't dealt with my mind. It's like a nightmare, but it's a great wake-up call. I can do a lot of work very quickly if I'm brave enough. You get attacked all at once. But he's done all the work previously. When he leaves me, oh, really going to leave? Oh, God, cry a bit. Bye, see you. I'm happy. Happy you're happy. It might be hard, you know. So, yeah, so we established it's either oneness with or it's separate from. There's only two options. if it does exist, this inherent I. First one, we have to establish what we think it is, and there's some real certainty there, which demands a lot of study about dependent arising, the way the I exists, what it is, what isn't, how this, how that, blah, 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 you know. Demands this, otherwise you can't do anything. And the second one, once you've established the parameters, clear, it's either oneness with or it's separate from, no other option. So you start to look at the obvious, you know, absurdity of saying your I is all of you. Well, the very first logical argument to prove how that's absurd, if I is the rest of me, why have a separate name? There's no need. If all of you is I, then don't call yourself I. It's silly. And one of the key arguments too is that once you define something, then you have to see if it fits a definition. Straight away you'll see that it can't be the same as everything, because you've got a hand and a nose and a foot and a brain and a this and a that, all these bits, which we vaguely put together in a package. And then we think that's I, inherently. Conventionally, it is the basis of the label I, no problem. But we think it is I. One of the arguments Lama's over all the time keeps talking about, the basis can't be the label. The basis can't be the label. The basis can't be the label. You don't need to have two names if it is. The basis, the parts of the cup, or the I, same argument. The basis, it's too hot to hold. Oh, the lid's hot as well. It'll calm down, it'll cool down. So we have here the parts, the basis of the name. We have the parts, don't we? Clay, bobble, you know. And we say there's a lid. And what we mean is there's an inherent lid. What we mean is it's a lid from its own side. What we mean is it kind of possesses like a mini me, a little. It's harder to think there's a lid owning the parts, like we think of an eye. It's more easy for the eye. But the same thing applies. We assume there are the parts, top, bottom, pink, paint, clay. We assume that's the lid. But the Buddha says it's not the lid. Lid is a name. This is the subtlest one. Lid is a name that you impute by the mind on the parts. So if the lid and the parts were the same, don't have two names. Don't need. Don't need. Unnecessary. Don't need. Well, we can't hear, even as I'm saying it, it's kind of a bit sort of tenuous, you know. Well, I'm confident. Intellectually a little bit. So if Robina were the parts, well, even the good argument is, okay, define Robina. It's the name, isn't it, we know, for the Australian, 68-year-old Australian nun. That'll do. There's no more of her in this room, so we can say this is the name. This is Robina. It's true. Conventional, there's Robina. No argument. But I cling to, you know, for each one of us, to the assumption that this is Robina, inherent Robina, real Robina, here. This is the one that's being oneness with the parts. So if we define Robina, we say she's the Australian, 68-year-old Australian nun. That's the definition of Robina. If you prove that she is Robina, she has to fulfill the function. You know, you can find ways to prove that quite quickly, that it's not Mary, not Torek and things, but is Robina. Now, if that's the definition of Robina, and then I say, well, Robina's all of me, well, straight away, what's all of me? Oh, my hand, my foot, my heart, all of me. Oh, good, what's a hand? Well, that's a 5-digit part of my body that holds things. Now, you just defined a hand, right? Now, is that the definition of Robina? No. So how can it be the same? The definition of the heart. The definition of the foot. The bladder. What are you letting in or out? What are you doing? What's the problem? Oh, shush, don't tell me quite. That's extremely rude. I'll say too late. I know, but they're going anyway. Never mind. Anyway. They were to you. I'm sure you were very polite. That's very nice. Good. No, darling, you were very polite. So, let's continue. That's good. Look at the eye catching. Grab the eye. I just insulted your eye. So, no, I insulted your eye. So, okay, good. So, look. So, even this is not very satisfying to us. That's why we've got to be logical. You know, if the basis of the name Robina is the same as Robina, which is the first argument, then it's just don't bother calling it Robina. Why you have two names? How stupid. Just say, all the bits. But straight away, if you analyse all the pieces, hand is a hand. Give the definition, see its function, foot, nose, brain, all the bits. It can't be the same as Robina. Robina is a name we give to all of it. You see, but that's the subtle one. We're not happy with that. We think it has to be somewhere. This is the general. First, this is the general argument about it being the same. You found a multitude of arguments. Like what Rinpoche says. The third key, determining that they are not truly. You have to determine that they're not truly the same. Truly the same, inherently the same. So begin to bring to mind the mode of existence of a thing to be refuted. Okay, we're trying to do. So to apply this to the way the self, I, Robina, in this case, Maritza, and the aggregates, the bits of Robina, the parts, the name, the parts that are labelled Robina, how they appear. How they appear. They appear to us. It's a good point. But if they were established as one, if they were the same, this is a really good point. They wouldn't appear separately to the mind. They wouldn't appear separately to the mind. If you say hand, Robina doesn't appear. Robina's hand appears. All, the way they say is that the basis, you see the parts, we see these parts here, we see the parts, the hair, and then I go, oh, that's Maritza. But I have to see the parts first. Then I deduce it's Maritza. This is the thing. If it were truly Maritza, I wouldn't have to be told her name. I'd know her name. I'd know it was Maritza. If it were inherently Maritza. Oneness with the parts. All these things kind of seem vague to us. Got to really think it through. So the reason is that things that have the same entity you have to learn all these things. The reason is that things that have the same entity can appear to the mind as separate from one another, but this discordance between the way they appear and the actual mode of existence is a deceptive way of relative truth. You have to know these things, learn these things, think about these things. So, if the self and the aggregates were one, then as it says in Engaging in the Middle Way, if the aggregates, if the parts were the self, it follows that as there are many parts, then there would be many selves. You've got to use these logical arguments and think through, but because the mistake is so entrenched, it's kind of like dredging up mud to even hear the words, Of course, all it has to be done in meditation, where your mind is so sharp, you've done so much purification, you've got so much merit, that it actually triggers some experience of how it's logically true, which triggers the insight. You use logic, but the insight is what's triggered. Anyway, that kind of discussion. And the fourth point is that determining that they are not truly different. Ultimately, they're not truly different. So here, now that you're certain, they're not the same, you should feel all that remains is for the self and the aggregates to be established as separate by nature. If they were shown to be naturally separate, as it says in the Root of Wisdom, then we can't accept that the self is different from the appropriated, which is the aggregate. Then if these were different, it would be rightly perceived that without the appropriated, but this is not perceived. So you have to learn this stuff. This is the way they talk. This is the way you have to use the terms, understand what they mean, this kind of stuff. Quite full on. What on again? Is the general name to your what they call primary mind? Yeah. No, darling. Okay, what do you mean observes? Okay, good. Right. So what is Maritza made up of, using this model here? The 5 pieces. Let's just say 2, your body and mind, generally. Mind is a label we can use for all the bits and pieces of the thoughts, as well as a general mind. We can just use the word mind for the lot. So you could say you've got body and you've got mind. You agree? Okay. So when you sit, when you think about when you work on mathematics, which part of you does it? Your body or your mind? Your mind. Okay. When you learn music, which part of you does it? No, the mind first. We know the body carries out the wishes of the mind, doesn't it? But it starts with the mind, doesn't it? It always starts with the mind, doesn't it? When you do the dishes, your hand does it, but what's working out what to do? The mind. So it's all the mind, right? So now, your mind is a name for what? What are the parts of your mind? No, what's the parts of the mind? What are the parts of your mind, Maritza? Yeah, what are the parts of your mind? What are some of the names? What are some of the names for the bits of your mind? No, that's physical. We're talking about mental here. What are some of the names for the things you feel every day? Like we've been talking here all the time. What are some of the parts of your mind? Good. Keep going. No, senses is physical. That's not your mind. Keep going. Yeah, just ordinary words that you'd use everyday life. Go on. Yeah, good. That's a good one. What else? Yeah, what else would you experience in daily life? What are some of the good qualities you'd have in your mind? Good. Keep going. So these are the parts of your mind. Would you agree there's a phenomenon called cup, and it's a label for a bunch of parts? What are the parts of a cup? Good. Clay. Good. What are the parts of a lid? Lid is a name given to this. What are the parts of a lid? Good. What's that? That's named as a flower. And what are the parts of a flower? Good. Now you got the idea. So there's a name of a bit of you. So then there's a person there. There's a phenomenon called person, yeah? And the name is Maritza. Would you agree? What are the parts of Maritza? Good. Now you're getting there. Now we break down, we go to the certain part of Maritza called mind. What is mind? Mind is a name we give to bits of the mind. So what are the bits of the mind? You've been saying it. Say it again. Good. Say it again. What are some of the bits of your mind? What are some of the parts of your mind? No, you're not. Yes, keep going. Yep, that's right. There's love, there's compassion, Okay, put it simple. Maritza, put it more simply, like we've been talking in the Buddhist model, you've got 3 components in your mental consciousness. Okay, first of all, your mind is a name given to some aspect of you. Would you agree? Okay, what's petal? So there's a flower, isn't there? There's a flower? Okay. There's a flower. So flower is a name we give to a bunch of parts, right? You agree? Now let's analyse a part of the flower called a petal. You agree? You agree? Petal is a name given to its parts. You agree? You agree? Marisa, keep on it. You agree? Good. So now, we have a person, we have an object over here called a person. You agree? And then Maritza is the label we give to this person. You agree? And that means she's a name given to a bunch of parts. Do you agree? Good. Those parts are body and mind. You agree? Let's take a part of that called mind. You agree? So what are the parts of that one? Mind is a name given to a bunch of parts. So what are the parts of your mind? We'll use the Buddhist view. You've got 2 parts first. You have sensory consciousness, which is working through your eye, through your ear, through your tactile. Consciousness is not physical. That's one part of your mind. You agree? Good. So another part of your mind is called mental consciousness. Do you agree? The way Buddha's talking. I've said it 100 times in the last 9 days. There are 3 components of your mental consciousness: positive states of mind, negative states of mind, neutral states of mind. Remember? They are the categories of the contents of your mental consciousness. They're called Buddha. You agree? So all of those. So what are some of the negative ones? Say some of the negative ones. We've been talking about them endlessly, rubbing our nose in it for the whole time. Say them. Come on, keep going. You're doing well. Marisa, come on. What are some of the negative states of mind? Yes.
Aversion.
Good. That's right. Aversion. Attachment. Go on, keep going. Jealousy. And what's the one we're discussing here? What's the main one? The root one. What's it called? Yes. No, darling, the name of the negative state of mind that runs the show that causes all the suffering. Ignorance. That clings to the... okay, listen, Marisa, that clings... No, shush, keep on track. The root delusion that clings to the neurotic eye. That's a part of your mind. Do you accept? Ignorance. Okay. No, Marisa, keep on track. Stop going off to sidetracks. So we are communicating so far. There are parts of your mind. Mind is a name given to a part of you, and then it's got parts itself. So there are many parts of your mind. You agree? So we just looked at one category called the negative states. You agree? Now let's go to the positive ones. You agree? There's now they're called intelligence, discrimination, kindness, compassion, wisdom. Accept? Do you accept?
Yes.
Good. Now we're getting to the answer to your question. What does the looking? Shut up, Marissa. I didn't ask you. I'm going to tell you. We're now narrowing down, Marissa, we're narrowing down the particular group inside your mind of the virtue, called the virtuous states. And there's many pieces of your mind. In other words, can you get the idea here that your mind is made up of many? Maritza is made up of countless little pieces. Would you agree? Maritza, keep going. Please keep going with this. I don't want you to talk. I want you to keep tracking what I'm trying to say. So do you agree that the name Maritza is for a bunch of parts? Do you agree that mind is the name for a bunch of parts? Do you agree that petal is the name for a bunch of parts? Everything is like that, Maritza, in the universe. Whatever there is, there's a name given to a bunch of parts. That's just how it is. So your mind is this mental part of you, the mental consciousness, that is not physical, and it's got millions of little voices in there, all little bits and pieces, right? And the virtuous ones, the positive ones, the wisdom ones, the clear ones are what we're trying to locate, and they are the ones that do this work we're discussing. Each got its own job. So your question was, what does the looking? You said that. So it's a part of one of your many parts of your intelligence. A part called attention has to look at something. A part called intention has to drive you to it. A part called attention gets you there. And then a part called discrimination sees there's a petal, there's blue. Then you have many bits of your mind working like all the little bits of veins and things in your hand to simply pick up a flower. So there are many parts of your mind that when you sit to watch your breath, okay, breath is an object. Your mind is the part of you that does the looking, not the body. Which part of your mind does the looking? It's called attention. Which part helps it? It's called alertness. Which part is helping you else? You've got to have discrimination. There's a whole bunch of your pieces of your mind, all working hand in hand to watch your breath, to walk down the street, to do this, to think that. Does it answer your question? I think she's too scared to say no. Do you see my question, what I'm pointing? Okay, good. Because that's how we are. Because that's the grasping at inherent. We think our mind is inherent. We think there's a little mini-me mind in there watching something. Or we get all tricky when we say, I'm watching my breath. Then we get well, where's the eye that's watching the eye? Or where's the mind that's watching the mind? We get all cosmic, We're so stupid. Your part has many. Listen. Would you agree I'm holding a flower? Which part of me is holding a flower? Which part of my hand is holding a flower? Which part of my fingers is doing the job? Can you get the drift here? You've got to keep breaking things down to the specific bits. So if I really were being an anatomist or a surgeon, I'd be able to describe exactly which tendon, which bone, which joint, which this, which that. Wouldn't I? And wouldn't you need to do that if you're learning to be a surgeon? You have to be precise and analytical. It's not as up to say, I've got a pain. Where? I don't know. You've got to be precise. Are you getting my point? So I'm not being mean. You are looking at your breath. You can't say you're not looking at your breath. Which part of you? My mind. Which part of my mind? Well, attention's doing this, and alertness is doing that, and vigilance is doing this, and discrimination is doing that. All the bits of you working hand in hand to simply watch your breath. That's the type of precision and clarity we need to know in order to investigate our mind and exactly which parts of your mind. If one finger's not working, you better fix it because you can't pick up a flower properly. If one part of your mind is a bit of a mess, you better fix it. Otherwise, you won't do the job of learning to do discrimination and analysis and clarity to deconstruct the nonsense. Are we communicating in general, people?
Yeah. So it's aspect. It's a combination of aspects.
Just don't give a commentary. Just think about it to yourself. That's one. Then you've got attention. Then you've got an intention that makes you go to it. Then you have attention, which is the part that pays attention. Then vigilance is like the little policeman that watches when attention goes off, you bring it back. There's discrimination that can distinguish between the breath going in here as opposed to out your bum. That's just one of them. Not in particular, that's just one. Well, why do you say in particular? Why'd you point that one out especially, right there? What was that? Well, I'm very happy you're thinking about it. So, in other words, you see, this is the problem. We are so obsessed with I. You understand? We don't even think we're bits. We just think, I'm ugly. I'm angry. I'm depressed. I'm hopeless. I'm special. We completely inflate grotesquely and grossly and inaccurately. It's just horrible. Do you see? And the conclusion, this is the result of believing there's an I in there somewhere. And we build up this mad picture of this I. I mean, we all, like little children, we're very wonderful. If we drew cartoons of what we think we were, we'd all be monsters, Ugly, fat. We have such gross, overstating, unclear, inaccurate, imprecise views of I. This is why we have to break it down. And the more we break down even into components, when you start breaking the flower down to its components, believe me, you're going to get a sense of no inherent flower. You will. But if you see it from a distance, oh, this is a lovely flower, oh, there's a lovely flower. You get it closer, it's flower, it's this, it's that, you're like, where's the flower? You will not find it. All you'll find is the bits. It's a shock to us. If you search in the Maritza for Maritza, all you'll find is a bunch of bits, dear. It's very shocking to us. Because we're convinced there's a little mini-me in there who's a real little one. It's like when we do this analysis that Chandrakirti said we should do back in 7th century somewhere. I don't know, whenever he lived, I don't remember. He said we should do the analysis of the parts, the one of breaking down the component parts, which is one of these analyses we need to do to find the I. Another one, not this one. And so he said, get the chariot. And you search, You search among the parts to find the chariot. Of course, all you'll end up with a bit of wheel, a bit of this, a bit of track, a bit of something, a bit of run. You won't find a chariot. Well, the same with the eye. But, so we do this analysis, and just to do this meditation is not complicated. You just got to have the energy and the wish to really do it, like searching for the thief. We're just lazy, though. Kind of do a vague search. Oh, no, there's no I, Then someone punches you and you freak out, so clearly you didn't get it. Because you still believe the I's there. So the thing is to do this really clear, analytical, don't worry about searching, but one method of seeing how there's no I, there's no inherent I, separate I, is you break yourself down into your component parts. You do it in your mind, in meditation. So you mentally unpack yourself. You mentally unpack all the physical bits piled up, all the soft, all the smelly, all the nice, all the caca, the pee-pee, the this, the that, all the bits. There's an awful lot of bits. The physical. Now you've got the mind. So I'm saying the mind is made up of many parts, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the love, the hate, the jealousy, millions of them. You mentally break them down into 3 components, maybe, the good ones, the bad ones, and the indifferent ones. Then your sensory consciousness. Then your subtle consciousness. You keep, whatever way you want to divide the bits of your mind, you keep putting them out there until there's nothing left. All of here is now in piles. So what we feel utterly, after we've unpacked the person, we are convinced we will end up with this little kind of naked, self-existent, like little kind of embarrassed little mini-me that's now been found out that's running the show. You won't find her. She ain't there. It's a good exercise to do. So Rinpoche has a wonderful article in here. I hope you've read it, about emptiness. As he says in there, when you begin, you get some sense of seeing the absence of that I that you thought was there. You know 2 responses, both of which are fantastic. The first one, which is inferior but is also brilliant, is scared to death. Scares the life out of you. Fear. It's a great response, like your dreams. Very good. Utter terror, she said. The eye was being mortally, that's when the eye is being mortally attacked. So in dreams when it's more subtle, it's a great sign. Fantastic, But the better one is bliss and joy. You found the most precious thing in the universe, the absence of the eye. As he says, Lama Yeshe says, Milarepa was up in the mountains laughing. Green and naked, because he's temples. Because he's seen the absence of the fantasy eye, which means cut the root of all the nonsense. So it takes time, Slowly, slowly. Yes. What was that? A question coming out? A statement? What's your question?
Well, I'm just thinking about Chapter 30's reputation of itself being a shape.
Yeah, okay, yeah, good, go on. What about it? I don't do that one.
He rejects that, and a lot of people think that
So what's the point? Go on, tell me that one. I don't do that one. Tell me how that goes. Do the Chapter 30 for me. Do it. What's he saying? What? What?
he said that suffering is viewed as part individually and whole. He says that some people say that the shape of the chariot is the chariot.
And so he says,
He says that can't be because the chariot can be made in different shapes.
there you go, good enough. I'm not moved by that one, but that could be good. I might give that a go. Thank you very much. So any more questions, folks? Look, it's might be. Look, it's lunchtime happening. I'm so sorry. No meditation today. But this is good. I'm happy you're having this, all right? Good. It's all part of the grist for the meal. It's all the same. Yes? What's your name, darling? Oh, you told me. You laughed about Carmela. You didn't. Carmela, thank you. Yeah, let's do it. Good idea. I like that. Let's do it. We'll finish this session before lunch, if we live this long, 20 minutes, with the heart sutra. They say in the monasteries that they... Sarah Jane Monastery, for example, which is the monastic university of Lama Yeshe Lama Zopa, or many of my lamas, Geshe Konchok, or went to. And they're about an hour out of Lhasa, I think. I can't remember. I've been there. I can't remember where it is. But they say that they do the heart sutra sometimes together in the monastery so slowly that it takes as long as walking from there to Lhasa. So it must be, they chant it, really slowly. Try, meditate on the meaning. But of course, again, if you've never heard before in your life, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form is nothing other than emptiness, emptiness is nothing other than form. And there's no ear, no eye, no nose, no tongue, no taste, no... If you've never heard that before, it's like saying you've never heard mathematics or algebra before. And then you see that someone said you shouldn't meditate on it, and you go home and you say all these algebraic phrases, but you don't know what they mean. Of course you won't understand it. And that's how we mystify religion. We assume by saying the words, it leaves an imprint. It's marvellous. We should do it. But if you've never heard the meaning before, it'll be mystical, won't it? And that's where we think spiritual is. I remember I told you, I had this conversations one time with these lovely Catholic nuns in Berkeley. And I like to discuss all these things. I've got this nice Jesuit friend, and we discussed the Dharmakaya, the nature of God, and really interesting conversations. I like those conversations. So I was asking these nuns different questions about God, the nature of God, these things. And I remember what they kept saying, I don't know. And I said, but don't you want to know? They said, oh no, it's a mystery. Don't laugh, I don't mean rude. It's a mystery, and we'll know when we go to God, go to heaven. Now, it's okay, but that's not the point here. It's to unpack it. If you will never learn algebra just by saying it and cosmic and sit there going, all those things, and one day you'll get a vision of it, or you just sit there at the piano with your hands on the keys hoping Mozart will channel through you. It doesn't work like that. You've got to squeeze your brain by learning all those funny notations and memorize it and practice. Then one day you'll be able to take it. Same here. Nevertheless, there is power. Even saying the words of music and algebra, it leaves an imprint. You take a photo of it, put it in your mind. Good. It's just that, but it sets you for be able to meet it again and maybe understand it. That's the very minimum level. So at least we can rejoice that in this life, let's say, we listen to the things because it leaves an imprint. Good enough. Bare minimum is good enough. It's fantastic. You see the Buddha, you hear the Buddha, you say the Buddha, you do this, you just like the Buddha. There's nothing wrong with that. That's already fantastic. You grab onto his shirt tails and don't let go. Next life you'll meet him. And it'll grow and increase, and you'll actually maybe then be able to study and get it. Because you sowed the seed. Well, we can do more now if we want. We've sowed the seed in the past. It's come we're here. So let's put more meat on the bones. Make an effort. Don't just believe in Buddha. Don't just believe in karma. It's superstition. Better than nothing. But if you don't keep practicing, it'll run out. Like, Fiona's question, because the realizations keep lasting. If you don't keep nourishing those seeds, they will dry up and will not grow. Let's quarter to. Let's through the Heart Sutra slowly together. And just slowly, a few minutes, we can meditate on the meaning of it. Even if you don't know what the meaning is, don't worry, just put it in and hope to be able to unpack it and understand it in the future. That's okay. What page was it again? 70-something? 70. Okay. So there's all these different translations, but this is the one they have here, so we'll do this one. So then just get the scenario, please. Visualize. Have you been to Rajgir, any of you? Somebody must have. Yeah? Okay. It's hot, clear blue sky. And you walk up and up. It used to just be walking. Now they've got all these steps, probably a couple of hundred steps. You go up and up and up and up and up and up and up. Remember, we're up there, way, way up. And it's really small, a quarter the size of this gompa, maybe a sixth of this gompa. But it's up totally on a little baby hill. They've got a little low fence. You can easily kill yourself from there. That's a funny thought. Why did I say that? I do not know. What a dumb thought. There's no barriers, This little low fence all the way around. And it's just at the top of a hill. There's rocks and things. And they all say it's called Vajrasattva because just as you walk around, down, there's a little cave under there where they meditated. And then somebody meditated. And there's this rock that looks just like a vulture. So I think they say that's called Vajrasattva Peak for this reason. And it takes a good 20 minutes to walk up there, doesn't it? Easily, wasn't it? 20 minutes? And you really puff and pant. Slowly you walk up, step by step, and get up there. It's clear, hot. Even in winter, it's hot up there. So we think we're sitting there. Then we think all the holy beings in the sky are blissing out. And then we think we're there and Buddha is there in his blissful, saffron robes in complete meditation. And then we also have the Avalokitesvara, the 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva, looking in a human form. And we have Shantideva looking in a human, not Shantideva, Shariputra. And they're all sitting in meditation too, but they're having a conversation. And they're channeling Buddha. He's inspiring them to talk. This is why it's called the teaching of the Buddha, even though they're speaking. Okay? So visualize that, and we're there. We're very happy to be there. Okay. I prostrate to the Arya triple gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagawan was dwelling on mass of Vulture's mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks. That's all the superior beings in their ordinary form, not the form of it's the relative, not the relative Sangha, but the absolute Sangha. And a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagawan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokitesvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokitesvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokitesvara said this to the Venerable Sharadvatiputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. That means, please, that you cannot have the absence of inherent form without a form. You cannot have the absence of red cup without a cup. So you can't have nihilism. In that sense, you say form is emptiness, emptiness is form. You cannot have the emptiness of inherent existence, of a form, unless you have a relative form. That's the point. You cannot have the absence of inherent I without first positing the conventional I. Because the absence, the emptiness of inherent I is a characteristic of an I that does exist. Just like we talked, the emptiness of blue is a characteristic that does exist on a cup. The emptiness of inherent blue cup does exist on a cup that does exist. There is a cup that does exist conventionally that possesses the characteristic of absence of blue. So there is an I, conventionally, that does possess the characteristic of the emptiness of inherent existence. In the same way, now we do all the grouping of all the categories. Feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. So those five together would form, that's the aggregates. Now, Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Now proceeds to now list, Abhakisvara, the various other groups of phenomena according to the Buddhist view of the world. So this group now is the, again repeating, the five aggregates. Then there's the five senses plus the mental consciousness. Then there are the objects of those consciousnesses. Then there are the six sense powers. Then there is the group called, ignorance and no extension, and go on, so on, up to and including, which is the 12 links of dependent origination. Then there are the four noble truths, like this, the groupings of stuff in the universe. And now, Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. Keep remembering, in emptiness there is no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. Phenomenon here means the objects of the mental consciousness. In emptiness there is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. In emptiness, there is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. So what this one means is, within emptiness, there is, this is the 12 links, there is no ignorance. But once we've established the emptiness of inherent existence, of ignorance, we also establish that there is no emptiness of inherent existence, of ignorance. Because it too is empty. No extinction of ignorance is what it means. So now, in emptiness, similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and power. There is, so within emptiness, there is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also non-attainment. Same thing there. There is no attainment of wisdom. That is empty of inherent existence. The attainment of wisdom, which does exist conventionally. And also, there is no emptiness, which is non-attainment. There is no emptiness of inherent existence, of attainment. To really cover our what? What did I say? Cover your bases. Yes, that's right, exactly. So in emptiness, there is no exalted wisdom. Come on. No attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because in emptiness there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana, which simply means the cessation of suffering and its causes. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. The perfection of wisdom in the sixth of the six perfections is the perfection of the wisdom that has direct insight into the absence of inherent existence of all phenomena. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokitesvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. And Tathagata is another word for Buddha. Bhagavan is another word for Buddha. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Arya Avalokitesvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Okay. Jen, did you want to say something to us? Did you come to tell us something? We're finished. You tell us. We'll dedicate. Okay, we'll dedicate first before we have lunch. We'll think about lunch differently. Let's think, of course, we'll think about lunch as having no inherent nature. Food is the label we give to that stuff on the table, but what's on the table is the basis, is the parts, is the bits, and it ain't the food. It's the parts. And then we go, oh, what a relief, there's parts. No, parts is a label we give to its bits. You will never find a bit that isn't got a label. So you look at the petal, you won't find food. Therefore it's empty. Therefore it's blissful. So you see there's oceans of nectar offered to all the holy beings, and they all bliss out, and then we enjoy it. Lama Sangha Lama Chode Lama Gete Kungi Deva Lama De Lama Chopabu. Yes. Again. Do I need to go? It's enough. It's not for me, this information? Okay, I'll go then. Goodbye. Thank you very much. So listen, we have lunch, and then I feel we're going to finish at 3:30. We don't have much more to do. Why don't we say we can come back? Well, I mean, we could all leave early if you want. I'm just saying, we don't have much more to do. So you either don't have a long break in between, and we squeeze it up with teachings, and you leave early. Listen, we don't need 2 hours anymore. We're on the way out, aren't we? We've got to get bored. So eat your lunch and come back. Eat your lunch and come back. Come back in an hour. Come back at 1, and we'll see what happens. We might be here till midnight. I don't know. I'll come from I won't do a Lama Zopa on you. I promise. I value my reputation far too much.